My fiancée told me flat out that she wanted me to give her parents a share of my company. She even went as far as threatening to call off the wedding if I didn't agree. What I did next? Well, it left her completely stunned. I'm a 33-year-old guy, and to be honest, I take a lot of pride in what I've managed to build. Now, I'm not running the next Google or Amazon or anything, but the tech consulting business I started is 100% mine. No big investors. No rich uncles swooping in with funding. Just me, my old laptop, and more sleepless nights than I care to count. I skipped vacations, lived off ramen noodles, and pretty much said goodbye to having any kind of work-life balance just to keep it going. So yeah, I'm seriously attached to this thing I've built from the ground up. Around a year ago, I met Patricia. She's 29, and when we first got together, it felt like she was everything I'd been looking for. She had drive, walked into a room like she owned it, and had this energy that just drew people in. She dressed sharp, spoke with confidence, and carried herself in a way that, honestly, I could never quite pull off myself. We started seeing each other, and for a while, things were great. It felt like I'd finally found someone who understood the grind. Fast forward about a year, and I popped the question. Nothing fancy, just the two of us at dinner, quiet and simple, the way I like it. I asked her to marry me, and she said yes. For a while, it felt like I was living in some kind of dream. I wasn't super into the wedding planning stuff, but Patricia jumped in like it was her full-time job. She handled everything, the venue, the dress, the food, and I was happy to let her take charge. Or at least, I thought I was happy. Then one night, about 3 months before we were supposed to say I do, we were sitting at the kitchen table. She was glued to her laptop, scrolling through Pinterest, probably looking at flowers or centerpieces or whatever. I was halfway paying attention, sipping my coffee and trying to fake interest in the whole roses versus peonies debate. And then, out of nowhere, she hit me with it. She said, in that voice she uses when she wants something, "Babe, we need to talk about my parents." I looked up, raising an eyebrow. Okay, what about them? She gave me the sweet smile like she was about to pitch something brilliant. Don't you think we should do something special to thank them for everything they've done for us? I blinked, kind of confused. Didn't we just take them to Napa last month? And I bought your dad that fancy watch he wouldn't stop talking about. She gently set her laptop aside and leaned toward me like she was about to share a life-changing idea. I was thinking, maybe you could give them a stake in your company. For a second, I honestly thought I'd misheard her. Come again? Just a small stake, she said quickly, like that somehow made it a more reasonable suggestion. It's just a gesture. They've always wanted to be part of something successful, and this would really mean a lot to them. I just stared at her, trying to wrap my head around the audacity of what she just said. You want me to hand your parents a piece of my business as a thank you gift? Yeah, she said, like she'd asked me to pick up milk on the way home. It's a sign of trust. Of appreciation. They've done so much for me, and this would show that you value them too. I laughed. I genuinely thought she was joking. Patricia, I built this company from nothing. Your parents weren't involved in any of it. Why in the world would I just give them part of it? Her smile faded, and she gave me this look like I was being the unreasonable one. Because they're family. My family is going to be your family, remember? This isn't just about business. It's about creating bonds, showing them you respect and include them. I put my coffee down. Suddenly, I wasn't tired anymore. Patricia, I don't think you really understand how businesses work. Giving away equity in a company isn't some symbolic gesture. It's not like handing someone a souvenir at a party. This is my livelihood we're talking about. She sighed and rolled her eyes like I was overcomplicating things. You're making it a bigger deal than it needs to be. It's just symbolic, that's all. It's not like they're going to take control or anything. I rubbed my temples, trying to keep from losing it. It's not symbolic, Patricia. It's legal. This isn't monopoly money. Your parents didn't contribute to this business in any way. Why would I slice off a piece of it for them? Her tone changed after that, sharper, more frustrated. Because they're my parents, Richard. Without them, I wouldn't be where I am. Don't you think they deserve a little something in return? I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. Sure, they deserve respect. But that doesn't mean I hand over something I've spent years pouring my life into. That pretty much ended the conversation for the night. But later, lying awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, something in my gut told me this was just the beginning. Her request wasn't just strange, it felt entitled. And the fact that she genuinely believed it was a normal thing to ask? That was a serious red flag. In hindsight, I probably should have seen it coming. Patricia always had a bit of a flair for the extravagant. She came from money, and I'd noticed she was used to having nice things just appear, no questions asked. I used to think that part of her was harmless. But now it felt like she was treating my business, my blood, sweat, and tears like it was some party favor she could hand out to keep her parents happy. The next morning, I woke up hoping maybe she'd slept it off. People say dumb things when they're caught up in their emotions, right? I figured she'd wake up, realize how crazy the whole idea sounded, and we'd move past it. I made coffee for us like I always did, and for a moment, everything seemed fine. She kissed me on the cheek, thanked me for the coffee, and scrolled through her phone while I got back to work on my laptop. I even let myself believe I might have overreacted, that maybe she'd dropped it. But then, like clockwork, she brought it up again. "Babe," she said, setting her phone down like she was about to drop some wisdom on me, "I've been thinking more about what we talked about last night." My stomach immediately sank. There was only one thing she could be referring to. "Patricia," I started, already feeling the headache coming on, "can we not go through this again?" I really thought we'd closed the book on that conversation. She gave me this polished, sales pitch kind of smile, the same one she used whenever she was trying to convince me to blow $60 on avocado toast at some hipster brunch place. "I just think you're missing the bigger picture," she said smoothly. "It's not about money or control. It's about showing my parents you value them the way I do." I shut my laptop, realizing I wasn't getting out of this discussion so easily. "Patricia, I respect your parents, I really do. But giving them a share of my company? That's not the bigger picture. It's a legal and financial disaster waiting to happen." I leaned back in my chair, trying to keep my voice level. Once someone has ownership in a business, it's theirs, end of story. It doesn't matter if they contribute or sit on the sidelines. And with all due respect, your parents wouldn't know the first thing about running a tech firm. She just waved it off like I brought up something trivial. They don't need to know anything about running it. That's not the point. It's about making them feel appreciated. I looked at her, trying to figure out if she was genuinely serious, and she was. Dead serious. The rest of the day, her words looped in my mind like a bad song stuck on repeat. I couldn't concentrate. All I could think was, is this what my life would look like with her? Guilt trips over ridiculous demands, over and over again? That night, it got worse. We were sitting on the couch, watching TV, trying to unwind. Out of nowhere, she turned to me and said, "You know, if my parents had a stake in the business, it could actually be good for you, too." I paused the show and turned to her, not even trying to hide my frustration. "What are you talking about now?" She flipped her hair like she was pitching me on a startup. "My dad's got a ton of connections in real estate, and my mom's involved in a few women's entrepreneur networks. They could help you land more clients." I pressed my fingers to my temples and took a breath. "Patricia, my business is doing just fine. I've grown it without any outside help. I don't need your parents to drum up business for me. But just imagine the possibilities," she said, her voice full of energy. "With their network, you could scale even faster. It's not just for them, it's for us. For our future." And there it was, the pivot. Suddenly, this wasn't about her parents anymore. Now it was about us. I looked at her and said slowly, "If we're talking about our future, then supporting what I've already built should be the priority, not carving up pieces of it to hand out like party favors." She didn't like that. Her expression shifted into a tight frown. "I am supporting you," she snapped. "I just think you're not seeing the opportunity here. My parents are excited about us starting our life together, and this would make them feel included in something that matters." It wasn't excitement. It was entitlement. Plain and simple. But I didn't want to blow up, not yet anyway. "Look," I said, "I get that your parents are important to you, and I respect that. But asking me to give them a piece of my company? That crosses a line." And for the first time, I saw something in her face that made me pause, not sadness, not frustration. Something calculating. Like she was already 2 steps ahead. And then the next day, things took a turn I never saw coming. I was at work, midway through reviewing a contract, when my phone rang. It was her mom. I answered cautiously. "Hi, Aaron," she said in this overly cheerful tone that instantly made my skin crawl. "I just wanted to thank you for being so thoughtful about including us in your business." I sat up in my chair. "I'm sorry, what?" "Don't be modest," she chuckled. "Patricia told us you were considered giving us a stake in your company as a wedding gift. We're just so touched. It means the world to us. You're really already part of the family." I almost dropped my phone. I think there's been some kind of mix-up," I stammered. "I never agreed to anything like that." There was a pause. Her tone shifted immediately. "Oh, well, that's not what Patricia said." "Yeah, well," I said, trying to keep my cool, "Patricia and I haven't exactly come to an agreement on that. And honestly, I'm not comfortable with it at all." Another beat of silence, then she said, "I see. Well, I hope you'll reconsider. It would really mean a lot to us." I hung up furious. Patricia had gone behind my back. She had flat out lied to her parents and made it sound like I'd agreed to something I hadn't, something I had clearly refused. When I got home that evening, I didn't waste time. "Why did your mom call me about the business?" I asked. She didn't even blink. No guilt? No apology. I just thought if you heard how much it would mean to them, it might help you understand. Sometimes people need a little encouragement. Encouragement? I shot back. You made it sound like I'd already said yes. She crossed her arms, her voice getting defensive. You're blowing this out of proportion. I was just trying to get everyone on the same page. The same page? I repeated, my voice rising. This isn't a group project, Patricia. This is my business. My work. And you had no right, none, to promise anything about it to anyone, especially not your parents. That's when her expression changed. A flash of anger in her eyes, sharp and pointed. If you can't do this one thing for me and my family, she said coldly, maybe you don't care about us as much as you say you do. I just stared at her, completely stunned. Was she seriously pulling this guilt trip card? You know what, Patricia? I said, standing up, if this is how you handle things, going behind my back, pressuring me, twisting the truth, maybe we need to rethink more than just the wedding plans. Before she could say anything else, I walked out of the room. My thoughts were spinning, heart pounding. I didn't know exactly where things were headed, but one thing was clear, she wasn't backing down, and neither was I. I really thought Patricia had hit her limit with the whole give my parents a piece of your business thing. Turns out that was just the warm-up. What came next didn't just push the boundaries, it lit the whole situation on fire. The next morning, I called my best friend, Charles. If anyone was going to shoot straight with me, it was him. I laid it all out for him, every ridiculous detail. When I finished, he just let out this long, low whistle. Dude, this is bad. Like, run for your life bad. Yeah, no kidding, I muttered, rubbing my eyes. Let me make sure I've got this right, he said. She's basically telling you the wedding's off unless you hand over part of your company to her parents? Pretty much. And she genuinely doesn't understand why that's insane? I sighed. Nope. Charles laughed, not because it was funny, but the kind of laugh people let out when they just can't believe what they're hearing. Man, I don't even know what to say. This isn't normal behavior. At all. If she's this entitled before the wedding, imagine what she'll be like after you're married. That hit me harder than I expected. For the first time, I didn't have an answer. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go through with this anymore. Later that evening, Patricia dropped the hammer. We were sitting in the living room, not saying much, when she turned to me and said flatly, so, have you made your decision? I already knew what she meant, but I played dumb. Decision about what? The shares, she said, no emotion in her voice. Are you going to do it or not? I looked her straight in the eye. No, Patricia. I'm not. She leaned back, arms folded. Then maybe this relationship isn't going to work. For a second, I just stared at her, trying to figure out if she was bluffing. But there was no hesitation in her eyes. Maybe it's not, I said quietly. Her eyes widened like she wasn't expecting me to actually say it. Like she thought I'd cave. You're seriously willing to throw everything away over this? I could ask you the same thing, I replied. You're the one making over-the-top demands and threatening to walk if you don't get what you want. What kind of marriage is that supposed to be? She didn't say a word. Just stood up and walked out of the room. I sat there in the silence, staring at nothing, realizing this wasn't just another fight. This was a fork in the road, and wherever it led, things weren't going back to how they were. The next day, I was in a complete fog. I couldn't think straight, couldn't focus on anything. My mind kept looping through everything that had happened. Was there something I hadn't tried? Should I keep fighting for this, or was it already too far gone? Then I remembered Karen, my lawyer. She wasn't just sharp with contracts, she was also a friend and one who'd been through enough of life's messes to know the warning signs. I gave her a call and said, hey, I need to talk. It's kind of urgent. Come by my office this afternoon, she said without hesitation. We'll sort it out. When I showed up, Karen handed me a cup of coffee and smiled. All right, Richard. What's going on? I sank into the chair and laid it all out, Patricia's gesture, idea, the pressure, the phone call from her mom, and then the final ultimatum. As I talked, Karen's smile faded. By the end, she was just staring at me, arms crossed, looking like she couldn't believe what she'd just heard. Wow. That's a lot, she said. Tell me about it. Let me get this straight, she said, leaning forward. Your fiancé is demanding that you hand over a stake in your business as a wedding gift to her parents? I nodded. Yep. And she's saying the wedding's off if you don't? Exactly. She let out a long exhale and shook her head. Richard, this is a gigantic red flag. Like wave it over your head and start running, red flag. I know, I said quietly. But what am I supposed to do? I love her, but this? This feels like a line I can't cross. You're absolutely right, she said without missing a beat. You shouldn't cross it. Not for her, not for anyone. You've got to protect yourself, not just emotionally, but legally and financially. Protect myself how? I asked, already bracing for bad news. Well, first of all, she said if you give her parents any shares, those legally belong to them. That means they can get involved in your business decisions, sell the shares, or cause all kinds of headaches. You lose control over that portion of your company. I felt the knot forming in my gut tighten. And if you marry Patricia, she continued, it only gets messier. Because at that point, those shares might be considered marital property, meaning they could get dragged into divorce proceedings if things ever go south. So this could screw me over from multiple directions? Exactly. You're opening the door to problems you don't want anywhere near your company. And let's be honest, if she's willing to pull something like this now, there's no telling what else she'll expect down the road. I stared down into my coffee, Karen's words sinking in hard. She was right. This wasn't just about one bad idea. This was a preview of what life could look like if I kept going down this path. What do I do? I asked finally. She leaned in, voice firm. You start by locking everything down. Update your operating agreement to clearly state that no ownership can be transferred without your written consent. And if you haven't already, keep your personal and business finances completely separate. I've already done that, I said. I've always kept it clean. Good, she nodded. Now the harder part, Patricia. You need to draw a hard line. No more maybe or we'll talk later. Tell her clearly and directly this is not happening. And it never will. And if she doesn't accept that? Karen looked at me with a kind of calm seriousness that only comes from someone who's seen this play out too many times before. Then you'll know exactly who she really is. I knew exactly what she meant, she didn't have to spell it out. Yeah, I said quietly. I might have to walk away from this. Karen gave me a look full of sympathy, but she didn't sugarcoat it. I know it's not easy, Richard. But you've got to think long-term here. A healthy relationship isn't built on ultimatums and manipulation. That stuck with me. The whole way home, her words kept echoing in my head. A healthy relationship doesn't involve ultimatums. When I walked through the door that evening, Patricia was curled up on the couch, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. Like we hadn't just had a near-breakup level blowout the day before. I set my bag down and stood in front of her. We need to talk, I said. She glanced up at me, guarded. About what? About your parents. About the business. About everything. Patricia sighed dramatically and dropped her phone onto the cushion. Richard, we've already been over this. I don't know why you're turning it into such a big deal. Because it is a big deal, I said, keeping my tone steady. And I need you to hear me clearly this time. I'm not giving your parents any part of my business. That's final. Her eyes narrowed. So that's it? You've made up your mind and I'm just supposed to go along with it. Yes, I said. Because this isn't about love or trust or family. It's about you and your parents expecting something that doesn't belong to you. She stood up fast, her cheeks flushed with anger. How dare you? My parents have supported us from day one and now you're calling them greedy. I didn't say that, I said, my voice rising despite myself. But asking for a piece of my company, something they had zero part in building, that's not support, Patricia. That's entitlement. She folded her arms and stared me down. Fine. If you're so set on being selfish, maybe we shouldn't be getting married. The words hung in the air like a challenge. I didn't blink. That's already where I'm at, I said calmly. She looked at me like I just smacked her. She wasn't expecting me to hold my ground. Not this time. The next morning, I gave Karen another call and filled her in on what went down. You did the right thing, she said. But brace yourself. People like Patricia don't back off quietly. And she was right. Patricia didn't back off, she doubled down. Over the next few days, she did everything in her power to flip the script. Suddenly, I was the bad guy. Cold, unloving, ungrateful. She tried to rally mutual friends to her side, spinning the story in her favor. Thankfully, most of them weren't buying it. They'd seen enough to know what was really going on. By the end of the week, one thing had become crystal clear. This relationship wasn't just cracked, it was broken beyond repair. Patricia had shown me who she really was. And I couldn't unsee it. When we sat down for what ended up being our final talk, I was done playing nice. I'd gone through the whole cycle, confusion, frustration, disappointment, and now I was just done. She thought I'd cave. She thought she could guilt trip and gaslight me into doing what she wanted. But what she didn't realize was I'm not the kind of man who gives in to threats. That night started off quiet. Too quiet. Patricia hadn't said much all day and concentrated her usual texting habits, constant pings about table centerpieces or venting about some minor inconvenience. The silence was suspicious. I figured she was building up to something. Sure enough, after dinner, she dropped it. So, have you thought any more about what we talked about? I put my fork down, wiped my mouth, and looked her in the eye. I don't need to think about it anymore, I said. I've made my decision. The answer is no. And it's not changing. She folded her arms, her face hardening. You act like I asked for the whole company. It's just a small stake, a token of appreciation. You're turning this into something way bigger than it needs to be. No, Patricia, I shot back. You don't understand, this is a big deal. Giving up equity in a business means giving up control. Your parents could sell it, use it to interfere, or worse. And if we got married? Those shares could become part of a divorce settlement. I leaned in slightly. This isn't about appreciation. This is about protecting what I've worked my ass off for. She pressed her lips together, her tone sharp now. If your business is all you care about, maybe you shouldn't be getting married at all. The room went dead quiet. We just stared at each other, the tension sitting heavy between us. You know what, Patricia? I said. You're probably right. Maybe I shouldn't be getting married to you. Her glare sharpened, her chest rising and falling with short breaths. You'll regret this, she snapped. My parents are going to think you're a selfish, greedy asshole. And so will everyone else. I let out a bitter laugh. Go ahead. Tell them. Tell everyone. I've got nothing to hide. Then I leaned back slightly. But don't forget, I've got the receipts. Every message, every phone call, every little attempt to guilt-trip me into handing over part of my company? I've documented it all. Her face went pale. For the first time, she looked rattled. You recorded me? I didn't plan to, I said. But after your mom called me like we'd already sealed the deal? Yeah. I decided to protect myself. So if you try to twist the story, I'll tell the truth. And I'll back it up. She opened her mouth like she wanted to argue, but nothing came out. She just stared at me, knowing she'd lost this one. Then, without another word, she grabbed her purse, stormed out, and slammed the door behind her. The days that followed were a mess, complete chaos. Patricia called me over and over, switching between angry rants and teary apologies like she couldn't decide which strategy might win me back. At first, I just ignored her. But after the 10th missed call, I figured maybe I'd pick up and hear what she had to say just to close the loop. Richard, she said, her voice shaking, I'm sorry. I was under a lot of pressure from my parents. They've been on me nonstop to make sure our marriage would be secure, and I guess I let that pressure get to me. I didn't sugarcoat it. That's not an excuse, Patricia. You didn't just let them pressure you, you turned around and tried to pressure me. You didn't stop to think how it would affect me or what it might cost. I know, she said, sniffling. But I never meant to hurt you. I love you. I just wanted my family to be happy. I stayed calm, but I didn't hold back. If you actually loved me, I said, you wouldn't have tried to guilt-trip me into giving away part of something I've worked my whole life to build. Love isn't about sacrificing your dreams to make someone else's parents feel important. She started crying again, but I didn't hang around for the waterworks. I ended the call and blocked her number. I figured that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Patricia went into full damage control mode. She called my parents. She messaged my friends. She even reached out to a few of my business contacts, trying to spin the whole thing like I was the selfish one, like I was some controlling partner who didn't value family. The first wave of backlash came from her parents. I'd blocked Patricia, but her mom still managed to get through. And honestly, her voice alone made my skin crawl, that overly sweet, political tone, the kind used by someone who's clearly playing a game. Hi, Richard, she started, all smiles through the phone. I just wanted to touch base and clear up any misunderstandings. I'm sure Patricia didn't mean to upset you. I didn't even try to be polite. There's no misunderstanding, Mrs. Elizabeth, I said. Patricia tried to pressure me into giving you and your husband a share of my business. When I said no, she threatened to call off the engagement. That's exactly what happened. There was a pause on the other end. Well, maybe she didn't explain it the right way. You know how passionate she can be. She only wanted to include us because we care so much about her future and yours. I almost laughed. With all due respect, this isn't about passion or care. I'm not handing over a piece of something I built from scratch just to make your family feel good. And I'm not going to let anyone manipulate me into it. Her tone changed instantly, gone was the fake sweetness. Richard, I think you're being very short-sighted. Marriage is about compromise. If you can't understand that, maybe Patricia was right to rethink this relationship. Maybe she was, I said. Goodbye, Mrs. Elizabeth. And with that, I hung up and blocked her number too. Next came the friends. Patricia wasted no time spreading her version of events, painting me as a cold-hearted control freak who refused to share his success and didn't understand the meaning of family. A few friends bought into it at first. Some messaged me wanting to know what had really gone down. One of them, Emily, sent me a text. Hey Richard, I've been hearing some things from Patricia. Just trying to understand, did you really end the engagement because she wanted to involve her parents in your company? I sighed. Time to clear this up. Short version, Patricia demanded I give her parents a stake in my company as a wedding gift. I said no. She threatened to cancel the wedding if I didn't agree. So I walked. I've got proof if you want it. To her credit, Emily replied almost instantly. Wow, that's definitely not what she told me. Thanks for being honest. I'm sorry you're going through all this. And that's how it went with most people. Once I shared my side and in some cases backed it up with screenshots, the truth spoke for itself. Some folks stayed neutral, which was fine, but most saw things for what they really were. And just like that, Patricia's support started drying up. Then came the final wave, Patricia herself. When her attempts to turn people against me didn't stick, she switched tactics again. This time it was full-on desperation. I started getting emails, voicemails, even DMs from burner accounts. One voicemail started with a shaky voice. Richard, I'm so sorry. I let my parents get in my head and I pushed you too far. Please, can we talk? I love you and I don't want to lose you. I deleted it without responding. Love? That's what she was calling it now? Manipulating someone into giving away part of their life's work? No thanks. I'd had enough of that version of love. A few days later, I got another email. Longer, more desperate. Richard, please. I made a mistake. I was under so much pressure and I wasn't thinking straight. Can't we work? I didn't even finish reading it. I just archived it and moved on. Because by that point, I already knew the answer. No. We couldn't work it out. And I didn't need to think about it anymore.